In today's video, I will share the top 7 mistakes that beginner harmonica players make so you can avoid them in your own harmonica practice. Let's get started with mistake number 1, which is not learning enough songs. For most instruments, the path to progression looks like this. You find a song to practice, maybe one that is a little bit above your skill level, and then you'll learn it. You focus on playing the right notes at the right times, and then after that, you do something with it. This could be you performing in a recital if you're playing a more classical instrument, or you're going on stage in an open mic, or you're making a recording or a music video. And then after that, you choose the next song to learn that moves you forward even further. Due to many factors, most harmonica players don't learn like this. Instead, many of us work on practicing our techniques, learning riffs and licks, or improvising. Now, this is fine and you will still get better, but you're missing the clear progression of goals that learning songs will give you. Let's say I see you in a lesson and you've been playing for a while and I ask you to play me something. You should have a few things loaded up to play, either real songs or things that you've written and played a bunch. If you don't, you have some work to do. I'm trying to fix this trend in my own way with my upcoming course, Blues Harp Success, releasing January 16th, 2023. That will include 20 full songs to learn and a whole bunch of smaller exercises and jams to try out as well. If you need help on this, keep my course in mind for the future. If you're on my email list, I'll keep you up to date. The next mistake I see is focusing on notes over rhythm. Now, don't get me wrong, playing the right notes is important, but if your rhythm is not there, if your timing is not accurate, nothing you play will sound good. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, if you can't play in time, you will not be a good musician. If you're learning something, spend more effort on perfecting your timing. Like when I'm learning a song, I often use a transcription program so I can hear the music clearly at a low tempo, which makes picking up on the rhythms and the subtleties of those rhythms a lot easier. Now, if that's too techy for you, maybe consider using a metronome regularly when you practice. That constant click is gonna eventually get you to focus on your rhythm more, and it will improve your playing in the long run. Also, you can work on your notes and your rhythm at the same time with metronome guided scale practice, which I think is the gold standard for a harmonica practice routine that's gonna make you improve on a regular basis. Now, I've automated this process in my app Harp Trainer. You can check out the link down below. Moving on, another mistake I've seen with my students is spending too much time on bending practice and not enough time on its actual application. Usually when I work with a student that is learning how to bend, their process goes a lot like this, and tell me if this is familiar. They open a tuning app like Harmonica Bending Trainer or Harp Ninja, and then they more or less stare at it for an hour trying to bend over and over and kind of watching that, needle go down and, center on some different notes. I think this is useful. I don't think you should not use these apps, but it has diminishing returns and it doesn't actually teach you how to use the bends that you're working on. Instead, I would check in with your bending quickly. You should determine which bends you can play and which ones you need to work on, and then pick some bends and then work on them in the context of actual music. So one way to do this is to learn a song that uses the bends that you want to work on. All the repetition of putting that song together is going to really help you out. Another is using your bends while you practice your scales. This is a little less musical, but it's still a good way to get practice going through those notes over and over. My favorite way is to practice your bends while you are improvising. So you put on a track, get comfortable, and then try to make something up that you like that includes that bend, and then repeat it over and over and build upon it. This is going to teach you to actually apply these bends to real music, and it develops your ear in a big way. If you think about it, when you're playing, you can't look at an app to visually check your intonation. That's not going to happen. You need to rely on what you hear. If you're spending too much time with these apps, then This is just a friendly reminder to consider changing your approach because I think it'll work better for you. The next mistake I see is spending too much time noodling and not enough time doing real practice. So noodling could be too much improvisation without any sort of a goal or structure, or it could be just playing something that you're comfortable with. If you do that, you really just won't get better very quickly. To get better, you need to focus on improving areas that you're struggling with. And I'll link a video at the end that goes over that a little bit more. If you don't know how to practice correctly on a regular basis, though, you should check out my free Harmonica Accelerator training, which will spell out everything for you when it comes to creating a good practice routine. You can check it out for free. The link is down below in the description. The next mistake I see is buying gear to sound better. New harmonicas, mics, amps, and pedals will not make you a better player. Hey, they're fun, for sure, and they can motivate you to play more, but they won't really change how you sound. Your specific sound is based on the notes you choose, the timings you use, and the techniques you choose to incorporate. None of that has anything to do with your gear. There's not a lot of difference between, adding a reverb pedal to your sound. Yes, it will add a little bit of texture and it will be kind of pleasing, but your playing is still based on what you're actually doing on the harmonica. So my suggestion is get a few harmonicas that you like and then just chill on the gear until you can actually play well enough to justify getting more toys. This is actually a big strength of the harmonica. You don't need a super expensive instrument to get good. You don't need a bunch of pedals. You don't need all the chords and all the cables and all the amps. You don't need it. You just need one functional harp and determination, time, and proper instruction to get better. Gear is fun, but a new harmonica or a pedal won't make you better. Practice will. Another mistake I see is players not using expressive techniques. With this, I'm really thinking of skills like wah, bend scoops, and vibrato. Wah being the hand motions that we do. Bend scoops being, just your bends overall, but doing quick bends up to notes. And using vibrato, which happens in your throat. When we think of a blues harp player, we think of that soulful tone that moves you, that's similar to the human voice. And without vibrato, wah, and bends, harmonica can sound pretty dry and metallic. As you learn these skills, remember to actually use them and you will sound more soulful and more confident. The final mistake that I see regularly is beginners just being too rigid overall. You can think of this in a bunch of different ways. If you are too rigid with your rhythm, everything will be kind of robotic, always fitting perfectly in with the beat. It may sound okay, but adding a variety of rhythms will really make your playing pop. And if you find yourself playing using mostly quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, even simple eighth notes, you're missing out on a ton of interesting bluesy timings and grooves that can really take your playing to the next level. So try not to be too rigid with your timing, but you also want to not be too rigid with your notes. Some examples of this are playing only the root notes of chords, like playing 2-draw over a 1 chord in second position. So yeah, 2-draw is the root of the 1 chord in the low octave. But what about other chord tones, or other octaves, or even notes that are not in the chord, or even the scale at all? Ignoring these will keep your playing really basic and safe, and that's not what makes compelling music. Tension and release does. You create tension by using notes that are not so safe, and you release it by finding that safety again. If you trust your ears, experiment, and see what works, your playing will be so much better. Use music theory to make sense of it down the road, but just play what you feel and don't be afraid to be a little unsafe. What's the worst that can happen? If you want to learn how to work on improving your weakest skills to get better really quickly, which is so important for a self-taught player, then check this video out next. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time. Peace.